Thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Run it right back! Get it!
What is on your gym playlist?
What I've listened to the most the last, I think, year or two in the gym has been this band called North Lane. I literally just made a post today of me just in the green room kind of warming up, and I had one of their songs called Bloodline on. Gets me amped.
I gotta check that out.
Yeah, have you ever listened to North Lane at all?
No, I've heard of them.
Definitely check them out for the gym. Great band.
Will do, will do. I had the interview with Ben and I asked him what's on your workout playlist. He thought I said walkout.
Walkout?
Yeah.
Oh, like a
Yeah.
wrestler or something, WWE, walkout music.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
That works too, you know.
So I just changed my question to gym playlist.
There you go.
So what's your favorite exercise and why?
Well, my favorite form of exercise has got to be jiu-jitsu, just because it's so mentally engaging. It's like human chess. You know, you're literally trying to grapple another human being and get their body to go where you want it to go so that you can, have a submission and end the match or the fight. And them fighting you is just, it makes everything challenging, but in a way that's very engaging. Like I'm just so activated that in a weird way, I'm almost like it turns my brain off, like the stressed out part, because I'm just so engaged. So I love that. But if I'm doing more kind of a gym style workout, I think my favorite lift is probably the overhead press, just with a barbell, just straight above and doing heavy weight. That one's always very satisfying for whatever reason.
What's your least favorite exercise and why?
Ooh, least favorite has got to be any form of cardio, pretty much. I think that, I'll try to, do the boxing bag, or jiu-jitsu is usually good cardio, or even singing on stage when I'm jumping around. I'm basically filling my chest and my belly with air and holding it and releasing it really slowly while I'm moving. So it's very taxing, from a cardio point of view. So when I'm on the road, it's basically like I have a cardio workout every day. So when I'm home, I'm really unmotivated to do cardio. I kind of want to get away from it and do more lifting or resistance based stuff. But yeah, I would say maybe running. Probably my long distance running would be my least favorite. Or swimming.
Really?
Treading water's cool, but competitive swimming, I hate it. Maybe because my mom forced me to do it when I was a kid.
I was forced to do piano, I hated it. But then I started guitar and I was like, oh my God, this is a whole new world.
Oh yeah. I think I just hate swimming because it's like drowning while you're working out. It's it's already bad enough that you're, exhausting yourself, but you're drowning on top of it.
That's an interesting perspective. Let's get into the big questions. What does your regular fitness routine look like when you're not touring?
When I'm not touring, it's usually bouncing between jiu-jitsu or going to the gym and doing some form of resistance training, like weightlifting. But over the years, I've really... And you said when I'm not on the road, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because it's different when I'm on the road. But when I'm home, it's usually one of those two things, or hitting the boxing bag out in the back of my house. But I've done a lot of different modalities over the years just to kind of learn different systems, different perspectives, because certain days, let's say I have a performance the next day, or I'm about to go out on the road, or I need to be really agile and limber, I may not do a heavy weights exercise the day before. I may switch to more body weight, like calisthenics, or isometric exercises, because I find that I'm way less sore the next day, but you still get all the benefits of a workout. You just don't get that, with weights, the eccentric part of the lift, when you're going down with a weight in any kind of way, it as you probably know, it kind of rips the muscle, and that's what causes that soreness and that stiffness the next day. So if I need to perform in any kind of way the next day, I'll shift my workout to more of a body weight or an isometric type exercise.
Cool. Okay. So does your training differ when you're about to go on tour?
Yeah, it does. If I'm home for, let's say a month, about 4 weeks, I'll try to lean in those to do a little more strength-based stuff, just to kind of have that ebb and flow of being on the road. Because when I'm on the road, my central nervous system gets really taxed because I'm amping myself up for the show. I'm usually have adrenaline going. I have caffeine in my system. probably have alcohol in my system a little bit, and I'm just amping that nervous system up every night, and it's really fatiguing in a different type of way that it's very hard for me to do like strength-based exercise when I'm on the road because my central nervous system is needing to recover every night. So if I do like a really heavy lift or an intensity-based workout, it'll just kind of ruin my show that night because I just feel like I kind of sapped myself. So when I'm home, I kind of try to fill in the gaps that I couldn't fill in on the road. So I'll focus a little bit more on strength rather than like cardio, for example. So heavier lifts, a little more compound lifts like deadlifts or squats or presses or, weighted chin-ups, stuff like that, where I have to exert more energy. And then as I get close to going on the road, let's say the week before, I'll start transitioning. I'll start hitting the boxing bag a little more like plyometrics, where it's less of like a slow, strong, steady lift and more of an explosive movement. That way I can get my body in that mode for the stage, because, you could be super strong, but if you're stiff, you're going to look kind of funny on stage. You know what I mean? You're just going to be like a block, like a dump truck or something. And so I'm trying to transition back to like a cat. I need to be nimble again. And I notice if I lift for weeks at a time, I will get a little stiffer. Like I'll get stronger, but my body will just tighten around all my joints and I look stiff on stage. So I kind of use that week before tour to kind of start loosening up and transitioning back into that other mode.
And there's definitely a lot of power as well that you need on stage.
Yeah, on stage it's really about like core, because like my core is pretty much tight for like 45 minutes straight because I'm just constantly compressing air to get the notes out or to hit a scream. And so it's just like, if you could imagine just the muscles around the abdomen, they're just kind of like compressed and tight for like 45 minutes. So when I'm home, I don't really do too much core specific stuff because I'm doing it all the time when I'm on stage, other than like bracing your core when you do like a lift, like a deadlift or something, so I don't hurt my back. But
you don't do any kind of special core work?
No. So I used to, like a long time ago, maybe like 10 to 15 years ago. Since then, I rarely do like ab specific workouts. Most of the time, like if I'm doing, like I said, like a lot of singing, or if I do jujitsu, I mean, you get a lot of activation there. But what I've noticed is, like when people say, oh, I want abs, or I want my abs to show, it's usually way more about how lean they are than it is about the exercise of doing like a crunch or something. That's kind of like old knowledge where people would think that you could target it like that. And it's like, yeah, your abs might get stronger, or the actual muscle might grow a little bit, but you don't see it because it's covered by a layer of body fat. So the leaner you get, the more you see that. So I just try to focus more on leaning out right before I get on the road, because I get a little bit, I don't know what the word is, but I fill out a little bit when I'm home, because like I said, I'm doing a little more strength based type stuff. And then when I get on the road, I feel like I lean out a lot because it's just like cardio every day. I'm just burning so much. And so my diet's very different on the road than it is at home too, because I can get away with a lot more on the road because I'm just burning so much every day.
Yeah. Do you find that you've lost a little bit of muscle after a long tour?
Yeah, I used to a lot. And it was so frustrating because I felt like I would put all this energy and effort into, a program for 6 weeks or something, and I would make progress. Then I'd get on the road and I would just lean out too much, where it would start eating into that progress with the muscle side. But now I adjusted a few little things. Honestly, the biggest thing I adjusted was just being really disciplined about making sure I eat enough. That was a problem, is that I would just kind of forget to eat. I would get so busy or whatever and just in go mode all the time. And the other part that I focused on was just making sure that I don't produce too much cortisol all the time, because over time I kind of learned what my body felt like when I was producing cortisol. It's, for people that don't know, it's just like I believe I don't know if it's a hormone or what.
Yeah,
Is
it's
it a
a
hormone?
stress hormone.
Stress hormone, yeah. So, like, it's not always bad. Like, we need it. Like, when we wake up in the morning, your body releases cortisol. And so it's a good thing. But if you're producing it throughout the day too much, like, you're not what they call anabolic anymore. So your body's going to start eating itself, basically, and kind of going through your muscle to feed itself. And that's what my body did a lot. That's why I was always, some people have a different issue that they deal with where some people like are always trying to lose weight and some people are always trying to gain. I was always like what they called like a hard gainer because I think my body was just always producing too much cortisol. So I learned to kind of balance that in the food element, and that fixed that. So when I come home, I wouldn't really lose too much. I would lean out, but I wouldn't lose too much strength or muscle.
Very interesting. So what does your diet look like then?
When I'm home, it's a lot better than when I'm on the road. I'll say that. It's just easier to be consistent when I'm home. Every morning I'll usually eat eggs and some kind of a cheddar or an aged cheddar cheese, usually the brand Tillamook. I love that brand of cheese. And I'll get like free range eggs, maybe like 3 in the morning. Sorry, not in the morning. I usually fast in the morning. I'll just have like espresso black and water with a little bit of salt in it, like Himalayan pink salt, just to get the hydration from waking up. And then I'll kind of stay fasted other than liquids until, I don't know, 1 or 2 in the afternoon. And I find that for me at least, I think everyone's different, but for me, I stay a lot more task-oriented and focused. I just have a little bit more energy. It's kind of that, I mean, maybe I'm just making this up, but I feel like I'm tapping into that like hunter cycle where it's like, you didn't just wake up and eat. You had to wake up and like go get the food, So I think that about my first half of the day in that kind of primitive sense where it's like, no, I'm in hunt mode. I'm like getting things done, doing things, hunting, and then I can enjoy food after that labor. And so I'm always like thinking about, our evolution and primitive, I guess the thousands and thousands of years that we existed before kind of the modern world and all the luxuries that we have now, and just what those cycles of existence look like, and trying to emulate as much as I can while still having a modern life. So that's one that really works well for me, is that fasting until like 1 or 2 in the afternoon.
So you do intermittent fasting, basically?
Yeah, basically. I did it for a while, like before it was a thing, because it's been popular in the last few years. Like, how it is in the fitness and diet world. Things just go through these fads where there's like these buzzwords and everybody thinks it's, the greatest thing since sliced bread, or it's just a cure-all, whatever the new thing is, right? And intermittent fasting, I think they kind of did that where they maybe over-glorified it. But it was cool that it got like a spotlight, because for most of my life, I did that without knowing it before it was called something. I just wouldn't eat breakfast. I just never felt like it. Like my stomach would hurt in the morning when my mom would try to kind of force food down into me before I'd go to school. My body never really felt like eating when I woke up. So I did that naturally, and then I noticed the other thing that I did naturally before I knew there was a thing was I always slept really long. Like if I could get away with it, I would sleep 10 hours. Like my body just likes sleep. I've always been that way, but I've always been lean. Like people would be like, what's your diet secret to this and that? And I'm like, was thinking back, and sometimes it just came naturally because like I said, I wouldn't eat in the morning, so I had that intermittent fasting, and then I would sleep as long as I could, and felt that wasn't like oversleeping, but actually felt like I want to wake up, like my body wants to wake up, not an alarm clock waking me up. So that was a big piece too, because they say you burn a lot in your sleep. So people who aren't sleeping very well, that's one of the biggest causes of your body, holding on to fat or producing too much cortisol during the day, or doing this or that, or kind of being out of balance. But to answer, sorry, I got off track, but your first question was the diet. I think I only mentioned breakfast, but with the eggs and the cheese, I'll usually do an avocado and a lime and a little Louisiana hot sauce, which is really, it's nice because it's like 0 calorie and it's all natural. It's just chili powder and vinegar and salt, I think, are the only ingredients. So it's really healthy, but it makes everything taste good. So if you're trying to be healthy and, have a real strict diet, just finding the right seasonings or things that you like. I really like vinegar-based stuff and spice, so that one just works well for me, and it's like no calories added. And then as far as like lunch and dinner, I eat a wide variety of stuff. I just try my best to eat things that are full of life, you know, like a banana that looks ripe, or usually fruits on the side. I eat some vegetables like broccoli. I'll eat that raw with some ranch. And then at night, you know, I'll always kind of give myself a little reward at the end of the day and eat some, I don't know, double stuffed Oreos, or I'll have like my bad thing. But what I found is you can kind of get away with eating that stuff as long as you're not sedentary. If you're always on the move, like I have a million projects and things I'm always wanting to do, and going to the gym, doing all this. It's like I find I can have a little reward treat at the end of the day almost every day, and it really doesn't show or affect me as long as I keep it within reason, you know.
Yeah, you are in incredible shape.
Oh, well, thanks. Yeah, jumping around on stage all over the world is definitely a help, and it's a motivating thing to walk out and you're like, oh, I have to be in front of thousands of people, so I have kind of a built-in motivating factor.
Yeah. And going back to sleep, that's when muscle grows, right? When you're resting.
Yeah,
So-
exactly. Yeah, I noticed that sleep is probably, like, out of all the fitness trends and the things that people like to focus on, like diet and what type of workout and all this, sleep is probably the most important to all of them, is like good sleep, because it's the foundation of everything. Because if you didn't sleep well, you're not going to feel energetic during the day, and so even if you do work out, you're not going to have a great one. If anything, you might break your body down more instead of helping it. That was another thing I learned along the way, which was like working out for the sake of working out isn't always the right choice. Like sometimes, like when I feel really low, I could work out just to say that I did, or to check that box and feel good about myself. Like people, especially online right now, they're so hustle culture and grind. And I wake up at 1 a.m. every day and I get 3 hours of sleep. That's retarded. Like that's stupid. Like what are you talking about? That's not a sustainable like mindset. I understand like being hardcore and not being weak minded, like in moments when you need to be, but there's a time and a place for that. I think sleep is the foundation of everything. Like your happiness, your mental health, your clarity of mind. You're going to make better decisions throughout the day, like quality decisions that will have quality results, rather than just working for the sake of working and putting in the hours. And so some days not going to the gym is the right choice, even though it's like I should be working out, but my body is telling me not to. And I found when I listen to it, I'll get a better workout the next day and actually get better results than had I not listened to my body, forced it that day, then got even lower, and then now I'm vulnerable to getting sick. Maybe the next day I don't end up working out and I don't recover, and it's like you make no progress. You think you are, but you're really not, you know?
So you're following like a high protein, high fat kind of diet. Your carbs are low.
No, actually, I love carbs. I've always done well with carbs, and I don't know if it's just person to person, but I like salt and vinegar potato chips, like the kettle cooked ones. I eat those things like crazy. I love those things. So, I mean, you know, those are carbs, straight carbs, you know, and I've always liked carbs. I have enough protein, you know, I'll eat scoops of peanut butter throughout the day, and I eat eggs in the morning, and I'll still try to have like a meat of some sort in my dinner, whether it's chicken or beef or something like that. Sometimes salmon every once in a while, but I try to have it in there, but it's not like so high protein that I'm forcing it, because I tried that for a little while. I tracked all this stuff and I went on a real strict diet, and I even had a dietitian who just kind of consulted me, and I just wanted to learn. I was like, whether I do keep doing this diet or not, I want to see what it feels like. I want to learn what it's like to eat like this or like that. And what I noticed was the high protein thing. I guess everybody responds differently. When I upped my protein a little bit, I did notice a difference in my strength and muscle recovery and growth and all that. Like I did see a benefit when I just bumped up a little bit. But then when I super bumped it up, like I'm doing protein shakes and force feeding myself jerky and, you know, doing all that stuff, I didn't really, honestly, I just got kind of fat. Like because I was overeating the calories. It wasn't the protein necessarily.
Exactly,
It was the force feeding part. And I just noticed my body, like it just responds better to carbs. But the key is carbs are great as long as you're active. Like I'm very active, so I'm always burning them for the most part. So especially before a workout, that's like the best time to eat carbs. I find that if you're doing resistance training, I just get a better workout.
Oh, absolutely. Let's go on to tours. Do you have a pre-show routine?
Yeah. I usually have like a 3-hour window before my show, and the first hour of those 3 is dedicated to sleep. That's honestly, if anybody asks, like I've had people ask, how do you put out that much energy every night on stage and perform a show? Because it's like 45 to an hour and a half every night of just adrenaline and jumping around and being super intense and throwing my body into it. So I would say the superpower that I've discovered is sleep. So if I can get a power nap I found the sweet spot is 3 hours before the show. For some reason, like something about the cycle, I've tried it at a bunch of different places. If I keep it right about 3 hours before the show and I keep the nap under an hour, then it gives me a ton of energy. Like it resets me. It's like I have a whole new burst of energy for the show. But if I sleep past the hour, I'll be groggy. Like that's the key, because then your body goes into some kind of a deeper cycle, and it's just confusing to your body, and you feel groggy. So after that hour of sleep, I don't always sleep. Sometimes I just lay down or just try to rest my voice and not talk to anyone, because that's fatiguing for my voice as well. Then I have 2 hours left before the show, and that second hour of the 3, I'll usually just kind of be getting my body woken up, primed, loose. So I'll just be kind of jumping around, shaking all my joints, hitting myself, just to kind of wake my body up, wake my mind up. And while I'm doing that, I have like my cocktail before the show is a 5-hour energy and whiskey. I'll have those 2 things together, and that's like my specialty cocktail for the show. Loosens me up. It also gives me a little bit of some energy. And then that last hour, I'm painting myself, doing the paint for the show. It's different every day. It really is just kind of a spur of the moment, like how much time, how stressed or not stressed I am. And I'll just paint something different, just kind of go with the flow there. And while I'm doing that, I'm warming up my voice the whole time, just doing like these weird sounds that are like they're called lippers, just up and down to kind of wake up the throat. And then we all get in a circle, go on stage and put our fists in the middle, and we do a little chant, and then showtime.
Nice. I love the paint, by the way.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's
So
fun. It's very annoying, but also fun. It's a love-hate thing.
Is it difficult to take off?
Sometimes, yeah. Yeah, I started using this gold powder that you can also turn into a liquid. And I love the way it looks and the way I can work with it, but it's so annoying to take off. It feels like sandpaper, like scraping my skin. And I've tried a few different things to try to get it to come off easier, but it's like a mineral-based thing, so it almost feels like there's glass in my skin by the end of the tour. So that one's not as comfortable, but the other paint, like the black or the red, are easier. The red's actually easy to come off, but it stains. For some reason, red sticks to my skin tone like way stronger. So even if it's all washed off, there'll still be like this red stain. It looks like I have, like somebody slapped me really hard or I have a rash. For like a day or 2. It's really annoying.
Oh, it looks cool. It's all worth it.
That's what it's for, so that's good.
What do you do to not get sick on tour?
Mainly, sleep is the biggest thing. I mean, if I feel low at all, I just immediately gotta, at this point, having toured so much and gotten sick on the road so many times, which, by the way, is the worst thing. Like, being sick away from home sucks, because you don't have any of your comforts, or everybody's busy doing jobs and you're just kind of like dying in a little coffin bunk in the bus. So I do everything at all costs to not get sick, especially because I have to sing. It's even worse if I get sick. And if you cancel a show, everyone's kind of pressuring you to do it with all the expenses and paying the crew and the guarantee and merch. You're losing sometimes 60 to 100 grand if you say I can't do a show. It's like, boom, there goes that money. So it's a lot of pressure to not get that way. And so I really protect, like if I'm feeling low, I'll cancel stuff. If I have an interview, I'll be like, I'm sorry, I have to cancel it. And people will be mad at me or say, oh, this and that. I'm like, sorry, this is like number 1 priority is my health. So I just make sure I go lay down and get some rest if I can help it. And then outside of that, I'd say the second strongest thing to not get sick is zinc, supplementing with zinc. That is like very powerful. If anyone listening hasn't tried that, as soon as you feel like you're about to get sick, or you kind of sense those symptoms welling up, I'll do zinc and rest. And if it's an allergy-based thing, like if it's starting in my upper respiratory system or my sinuses, I'll usually take like a Zyrtec or a Zyrtec D if it's early in the morning because it'll keep you awake. But I can't take too many of those because if I take them every day, it dries my voice out and I can't hit my top range. So it's always this balancing act. So usually daily I'll take like a lower dose, like a Claritin, like an off-brand Claritin, because it's real low dose antihistamine. Anyway, it's all these things I've learned along the way where it's a constant balancing act. You're like, does my body need a little of this or a little of that? Or is that too much? Because now, even though I'm not sick, now I can't sing because it dried out my voice. And so that's just one example where you're just always, it's a give and a take and a balancing act.
What's been the biggest struggle then for you to stay healthy while touring?
Sleep is always the biggest challenge because you're sleeping on a moving vehicle and sometimes the generator goes out and so it was cool and you were all comfortable and then it gets hot all of a sudden, you wake up sweating, or people are being inconsiderate in the front lounge and they're just really loud because they had a few drinks, or we have an off day the next day so they're staying up late but you're not and you can hear them through the walls. Like, things like that are really annoying and frustrating, but as time has gone on and we've grown and we have, you know, more resources and money, that's gotten better because we can get hotels, and before, sleep was just the biggest challenge. But outside of that, there's always the, alcohol. It's like I use alcohol like a tool on the road, just like I'm sure sailors did back in the day, where, it's part of the rations. We need liquor. It has certain properties that are useful, but it can turn bad. Obviously, people who drink too much or get dependent on it. But I notice when I'm on the road, that does help in certain ways, but it can also hurt because you are just, can end up over drinking or whatever. So those are my main concerns. Oh, and the last one is kind of vocal health. Like, if I talk too much, I have to really protect my environment. So if I can sense my voice is getting tired, I try to position myself away from social environments, especially loud ones. Like if there's music in the background and people are yelling to be able to hear each other, I'm just going to end up yelling because I'm trying to communicate and be social and whatnot. So I try to avoid those to protect my voice if that's feeling weak. And then other than that, our off days in between, I used to try to work out on off days and go try to find a gym. But what I found is I can do that like the first week or week and a half of tour. But then after that, my body starts getting naturally fatigued from all the shows, that the off day, I almost have to dedicate half that day to just recovery, to just laying down or, trying to, hopefully there's a sauna or something like that at our hotel to try to just get my body to reset. Because if I work out, I've noticed I'll just get sick. It's like I run my body down too hard.
I think I noticed on one of your tours you had cupping marks on your back.
Yeah, the cupping.
Yeah, so what kind of recovery things do you do then on tour?
So that one's, that's a new one as of lately. There's this guy called the Rock Doc, and he just was at our pre-production rehearsals. And a great guy. He did chiropractic and was helping teach me certain stretches and help me address certain tight spots in my body that were causing domino effects in the rest of my body. That was really helpful. The cupping thing I was a little skeptical of, though. I was like, I think this is probably bullshit, but maybe it has a placebo effect for a lot of athletes or whatever. But I was like, but I'm curious because I do think massage works. I mean, which massage is just kind of breaking up tissue or getting circulation or, just moving things around just physically in a way that either loosens up the muscle or gets circulation. So I was like, it's a similar concept. But the way he explained it was, he's like, when you're massaging, you're almost pushing the muscle against the bone in this direction. With cupping, it's pulling it off, and it's kind of relieving theoretically all the tension between the muscle and the bone and some of the scar tissuing that can happen there. And it just lifts it in a way that you just try to get circulation in areas that maybe have a hard time circulating to. And what I noticed, I did it twice this tour. I think it helped a little bit. I did notice a little bit of a difference, but it wasn't like a night and day difference like I noticed when I don't like when I'm home and I start deadlifting again, like really controlled, slow deadlifting. I notice a lot of my back pains go away because it strengthens the muscles on either side of the spine. I've noticed for sure that works. Whereas like something like cupping, my jury's still out a little bit, having only tried it twice, but I did feel like it worked a little bit. Just, I wouldn't say a whole lot.
I look like a leopard, so I'm just going to close the shades because the sun's straight on me. Give me a second.
It's kind of cool.
Oh, so much better.
Good, good. I was like, it's kind of cool. It's like you had like a pattern.
I still need to sort out this freaking studio. When you were talking about alcohol, I think as long as you're the one in control, you can control how much you're drinking and you understand the effects on your body, it's all good.
Right. It's a good, what's the saying? Or it's like, it's a good servant, but a horrible master. It's an old saying, but it's good if you're in control of it. And if it's in control of you, it can be very, very bad. But it's a tool like anything else. It has trade-offs and uses. Yeah. I mean, they even did studies on alcohol use in powerlifting, which is something people don't really talk about a lot. You know, people take pre-workout. Pre-workout, I feel like for the most part, if you have a good one, is a very useful tool. If you don't overdo it, same thing. Like sometimes if I take too much pre-workout, I feel like I get a worse workout because now I just have anxiety and I'm like freaking out. It's too much stimulation, you know? So I usually do benches. Like,
kicking benches.
Yeah. It's like the half a dose for pre-workout is pretty good for me. But they did studies on alcohol and noticed that like about a shot of alcohol improved performance for a lot of lifters. So it does have an athletic function. Now, if you get drunk, that's totally different, right? If you're drinking too much, but just a little bit of alcohol, you know, a shot, maybe close to 2, actually has a performance enhancing quality.
It's interesting. I'm going to look that up. Okay, so do you smoke?
Every once in a while as just recreational use. Like, you know, if I have an off day or it's really just if I'm drinking, like if I'm out drinking socially, that's really the only time I'll have like a cigarette. Now, if I have one of those nights where I'm like, I've been working so hard, I'm stressed for a whole month, and I'm really letting loose, and I'm just kind of getting shitty, to be honest, sometimes I'll make the mistake of chain smoking, and I regret it every time. It's not good. But what I've noticed is if you have like one cigarette or half a cigarette, it's kind of whatever. Your body deals with it just fine. The problem is that people who usually smoke, same kind of thing with alcohol, the danger is that you get hooked or you want to keep doing it. So if it's within reason like that and it's small, it's really not an issue, and it's just kind of an enjoyable pastime for a moment. But that's about it, because anything past 1, it starts getting kind of gross.
If you've spent the majority of your day and your life being healthy, I think your body just processes like toxins and whatever else very differently from someone who's constantly unhealthy.
Yeah, I think so. I guess there's kind of a mix. Something I've observed about what you just said, and that it still kind of puzzles me a little bit to this day. I think I figured it out, but I would notice like someone who's really healthy, right? Yeah, they might process like a little bit of something quicker and faster and better, or because their body's got a good flow going on. Like their digestive system is healthy and they got good circulation and they're not sedentary, they're moving around. Usually most things just process faster and better. But on the flip side, I've noticed like my buddy, for example, he was like a Ninja Warrior competitor. He was like high level, and he treated his body like a sports car. You know what I mean? He was like measuring everything, so protective of what he put in his body at all times and how often he worked out. And he was just a stud, you know, you could tell he put a lot of time into it. But if he had one hamburger from Whataburger, it's like it would end his day. It's like his body was so used to good food that just anything that was like not like that, his digestive system like didn't know what to do with it. And he would literally get sick and have to go to the bathroom, and like there goes his whole day. So it's almost like putting in bad fuel into a sports car or something. It's just like the engine just is going to freak out or something. And so I don't know. I just always found that fascinating that was the case.
Probably just depends on person to person.
Yeah.
If you're very extreme, then yeah, your body's going to be like, fuck you, I don't want to deal with this shit in my system. But
Yeah.
I think if you're doing it here and there, I don't know, your body's like, fine, okay, I'll take a little bit.
Yeah. I think so. I think people would be surprised how adaptable the body is. And even myself, I've been surprised at how, I think it can adapt in so many ways. I think the most powerful thing, though, is like habits. If you have good habits, you can get away with a lot. Like I said, I eat sweets and, junk food like all the time, but it's not a part of my meals. I don't make a meal out of it. It's like a accessory thing because my habits with meals are usually pretty good. So you can get away with more.
Makes sense. Do you see more musicians taking their health and fitness more seriously? We touched on this a little bit at the beginning of the rock and metal industry is kind of shifting now. Have you seen that shift?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think it's a kind of a mixed bag still. I think that, you look in the 80s and you see a band like, I remember seeing some pictures of, is it Vince Neil, Motley Crue?
Motley Crue, yeah.
Or Axl Rose from Guns N' Roses, or, guys from that era, and they look like studs when they were young, and they had sex appeal and they looked fit and all this stuff, and then you look, I don't know how many years later, maybe 20 years later or however many, and they just look like a totally different person. And so I don't know, it was like a human experiment that we all got to watch, where you're like, oh yeah, if you live like that, this is what's gonna happen. Like, you just can't party all the time, you can't just have this hedonistic mindset all the time. So I think we learned from maybe that era of rock and roll, and I think in general, yeah, there's more people who are like health conscious in the rock and metal world, but you also kind of have to be. I think it's just more competitive. I can't speak with too much confidence because I wasn't trying to make it in a band in the 80s, but it seems like now it's just like there's so much more accessible to people in regards to instruments and computers and microphones. It's cheaper than it's ever been. You can record amazing sounding stuff in your bedroom. So there's just more people in the world that you're competing with, and so you have to be sharper, stronger, better, and so it's just more competitive.
Yeah, and longevity as well, because we've lost so many musicians, from that era.
Yeah, and it's always sad when that happens, and I always say, like, you want to be the Mick Jagger.
Keith Richards.
Yes, yeah. You want to still be able to enjoy the process. It's like, I always think about people who have kind of this life philosophy where, and I think it's kind of more of a, like my dad's generation, maybe their mentality is a little bit more of a save up your money, save your money, and then like travel when you're old. That's totally fine, but as long as you have a healthy body, then you can actually enjoy it. Like, what's the point if it's uncomfortable and painful and challenging to do those things? And so keeping a healthy body till then, or doing those things while you have a healthier body, just makes more sense to me. And so the good news, I think, with all this is that I've seen videos of, I think it was like an 85-year-old woman who was like deadlifting a few hundred pounds. And, the nature, what we've learned about resistance training and weightlifting is that I think it's probably one of the most important forms of exercise if you had to pick one, because it has a huge correlation to longevity in your ability to stay mobile. Because as long as you can stay mobile and your bones are dense, which your bones densify when you lift heavy things, it has like a downstream effect on everything else in your life. Because if you can't be mobile, that's going to start having an effect on your relationships. It's going to have an effect on your personal happiness, your autonomy, your ability to get out of your house, your ability to protect someone you love if something violent were to occur. All those things have effects from your ability to move in the world. And so if I were to, even though you didn't ask for it, but if I were to give one piece of advice to anyone listening, is like resistance training, any form of just pushing or pulling or squatting, something heavy, that stuff can allow you to be really mobile well into your old age and enjoy things, later in life and keep your health.
You know, I love that you said that. I've spoken to a lot of musicians who think that lifting weights is only to look good. And I'm like, no, there's so much more.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of misconceptions about that too, because there's aesthetics and there's strength, and there's a lot of people who don't look good who are very strong, and there's a lot of people who look great and they're not very strong or they're not that healthy really. Looks, what I've learned is that aesthetics and looks are way more about how lean you are as a man. I think as a woman it's a little bit different. It's a little more about shape, but with men I think it's the leaner you get, the more that you get that aesthetic. But when it comes to like health and functionality, there's, like I said, there's people who don't really have, they're not that lean, but they're not unhealthy. Like they might be strong, like you just don't see the definition of the muscle as much, but there's definitely muscle in there and bone density and, you know. So I think people conflate those two things, like looks and health. And they overlap oftentimes a lot, but they're not the same thing.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm with you on that. All right, last question. If you could choose one person to train with, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Oh, dead or alive? I'm gonna have to think about this one for a second. And now, does it have to be in the music world? Just anyone?
Anyone.
Anyone.
Ben had Bruce Lee.
Oh, nice. I would train with Jesus. I want to see how strong Jesus was. I want to know if he was like, if he was a wimp or if he was strong, you know, because it's different. I don't know. I think he might have been pretty strong, surprisingly. Who knows?
And he does look very shredded. All right. Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I would say, I think the biggest thing I would just push is people staying active. You know, finding something that keeps you active is probably 90% of the battle, because I think people talk about which workout should I do or which diet should I be on. And I think all that's like such, you can get so lost in all that information, because I've really dug through a lot of that my whole life. I've just been interested in it. But I think the most important thing you could focus on is what mentally gets you interested or activated, you know, because it may not be weightlifting, like you may not be that interested, but if you do something that requires you to like have resistance training of some form, whether it's hitting a boxing bag or doing some kind of intramural sport, like all that's still great. It's just staying active. Oh, and last point on that is that, you know, as a band, Nothing More, we had focused a lot on mental health. Like we partner with To Write Love on Our Arms and the Jed Foundation and a lot of other organizations over the years when we put out the song Jenny. And what I observed in that period of time when we kind of had this big focus and a lot of people listening to that song and connecting with their own mental health issues or someone in their family having issues, what I noticed was that a lot of people would focus on mental health as if it were this isolated thing from everything else in your body. And what I think a missing piece that maybe I can help by putting my perspective out into the world is that your brain is as physical of a structure as your body. You know, it's a part of your body. So your mental health is really your bodily health. Like they're interlinked and completely connected. So you get people getting bad results who need help, who aren't getting the help because they're focusing on, and again, there's a place for these things, but they would focus so much on talk therapy, or they would focus on psychedelics, or, you know, prescription drugs from certain professionals. And like I said, there's a place for all of those things, but I almost could guarantee that 90% of the people who are claiming to have these mental health issues would be solved in one foul swoop with bodily health. If they actually took care of their bodily health, their mental health, like most of my mental health issues went completely away when I got in shape and I stayed consistent with my exercise, my sleep, and my food. And that fixed most of it. Anxiety would drop, existential dread would drop, you know, all these weird head issues. So I just wanted to put that out there for anyone that maybe that, I don't know, resonates or helps.
It makes sense. The mind and body are totally connected. And you're also kind of channeling your energy somewhere else, all that negative energy.
Yeah, yeah. The process of it in and of itself has kind of a benefit because, like you said, especially if you're going to the gym, a lot of people putting in your headphones, listening to music, which is a spiritual process. That in and of itself is like cleansing if you're listening to music that resonates with you. And then, it's been proven a million times with all these different studies, all the endorphins and things that are released in your body post-workout, that totally affects your mental health. And I think the saddest thing nowadays is people are just looking in all the wrong places when the solution is like free and it's right in front of you. It just takes a little bit of effort and it takes a little bit of discipline and planning. And if you put in a little bit of that effort and the discipline, you could solve for virtually free or the price of a gym membership, which is super cheap. You don't even need one technically. That you'd be spending hundreds and hundreds and hundreds or thousands of dollars in doctor's visits and prescription drugs and things that have side effects and other things that you need to prescribe, other things to balance those. And you're never really solving the core of the issue. And I'll give you one last example. Sorry, I've been ranting here, but I have a friend who has a family member who just has constant back surgeries and knee issues. And, all in all, when you account for what this person has gone through in pain, money, suffering, the effect, the drag it's had on the relationships and the people in their personal life around them because they've had to help them through all this, it's probably hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of energy and resources and time just because this person would not just take 30 minutes to go to the gym and strengthen the muscles around their spine, literally lifting something off the ground and just staying with it. It's the simplest thing, but it could have saved so much in this downstream effect that it has when you don't protect your body. So I think it's really important. And, I don't know, just want to put that out there.
And like you said, one thing just leads to another thing, and then you've got now a whole host of problems like snowballs.
Oh, yeah.
Into more and more problems, and then you get hooked on to medication. It's just, just go out, get active.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and it even affects not just your physical body, but like I said, your relationships or even your relationship with yourself or how you view yourself. Because how you view yourself a lot of times is based on how others view you. And most people that are, trying to work on their attractiveness in the social world, most things that are quote unquote attractive are just health markers. Like, the reason we find something attractive is because it's a sign of health, that person's body and their mind is healthy, and so we're attracted to it. So it has a downstream effect there, even in someone's social life, and then their confidence, their pride. And so I think it's like the cornerstone of so many things. But people make more money off of you if they can convince you that they have a miracle product or they have a miracle drug, or you need to keep paying for therapy, or you need to do this, and it's money, money, money in everybody else's pockets. Is not solving your problem, and then you're just go deeper and deeper. And
shit.
Yeah, but the answer's right there, and it's virtually free.
Thank you so much, Jonny. This was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Pleasure to be on.